Right now, it's time for the Executive Edge, and let's turn to the Fed for that. Former presidential candidate and pizza executive Herman Cain withdrew his name from consideration to the Federal Reserve Board yesterday. So, who might the Trump administration consider next? To talk about that, let's bring in Dino Kos. He is Chief Regulatory Officer at CLS, and of course, he's also a former official from the New York Federal Reserve. So it's great to have you here, Dino.
Good morning.
Interesting times watching the debating between President Trump and the Fed and kind of what's happening.
Yep.
This may not be an unexpected move to see.
Not unexpected. No, not unexpected. Obviously, once he lost the support of enough Republicans that he couldn't get through, President Trump did the wise thing and withdrew the name. Now, having said that, there was a message that was sent to the Fed, received, I would guess. And so the next pickup will be less controversial, probably less colorful, probably a traditional Republican kind of economist or official, former official, who will be aligned with President Trump's views, but not have some of the baggage and who can get through the vetting process and get through the confirmation process, very importantly.
Having said that, President Trump wants a dove. He does not want to see this Fed raise rates. He wants to see them relax, even on quantitative easing. And when you think about the traditional Republican candidates, that's kind of counter to that. So maybe there's a short list of people who might fit that.
Well, as they say, where you stand depends on where you sit. So candidate Trump was in favor of higher interest rates. President Trump is in favor of lower interest rates. Most presidents, that's what they're in favor of. So it's not that surprising. There's been a lot of commentary about the qualifications to be a Fed governor. You don't need to be an economist. You can be a lawyer. Jay Powell himself is a lawyer. Randy Quarles is a lawyer. So you can have really good picks and not necessarily be an economist. People forget the Fed does monetary policy, yes, but they also do bank supervision and regulate banks, and they oversee the payment system. And people kind of forget that. So you need a mix of skills. And, President Trump's picks to date have actually been pretty good, if you think about who he's picked and who's gotten through. Now, these last two picks, the Moore and Cain nominations, a lot more controversial, probably much more about sending messages as much as anything, and we'll see who he follows up with, but probably a more traditional kind of Republican, more in line with the first four that he nominated.
Does the move away from Cain mark a sort of relative victory for Steven Mnuchin and the Treasury, given that he kind of had pushed for more of the Powell types, not the Cain types?
What it shows is the value of having somebody do a full search and do a vetting process. And so the first four Fed nominees that went through the Treasury Department, they went through the vetting, and they got confirmed. These two, happened through some other means, and you can see what happens when an important pick like this doesn't get the right vetting, because they can run into trouble, and you get the kind of, commotion that you're seeing now with both of these picks.
Do you think Stephen Moore, you're sort of bracketing them together, do you think Stephen Moore is out of the question now as well?
No, I wouldn't say he's out of the question. There's a lot of politics, obviously, that's involved, and Moore arguably has more of a record, at least in commenting on policy, even if he himself was not a policymaker. He's not an economist per se, but you can make the case. So we'll sort of see what the politics are.
Would you make the case for him?
Well, I would not, but that's one person's view. Again, you don't need to be an economist to be on the board, as I just said. So I don't think that the fact that he's not, that does not disqualify him. But does he bring a set of expertise, experience, a body of work that's commensurate with what's required in that job? Again, this is, a lot of people seem to think that he doesn't.
But you just said that a couple of lawyers were justifiably on the Fed board. So why does Stephen Moore not qualify?
Well, as I was saying, so if you think about a Powell, if you think about a Quarles, these are lawyers with private equity experience. They both worked in the U.S. Treasury. They have a history of policy making, expertise, in policy making, and have accomplishments that they can point to. With some of these other picks, hard to make that case.